everyone's focused on innovating, but are we focused on innovating at the org chart?
Welcome to the Power of Construction. I'm Sasha Reed.
And I'm Kris Lengieza.
And today we have our guest, Dustin Burns, who's joining us on the podcast. Welcome, Dustin.
Thank you so much for having me on. Really excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great catching up, getting ready for this podcast. And I think we're going to talk about some really fun things.
We are. Before we jump in, though, I want to give those who are watching who may not be familiar with you or your company, I want to give a little background for them. So, Dustin, you're the Senior Vice President of Technology and Business Solutions for McCownGordon. And for those of you who aren't familiar, McCownGordon is a construction company and they are employee-owned as a GC. And they've been in business for about 25 years, based in Kansas City with offices, and this is pretty extensive, Manhattan, Kansas, Wichita, Kansas, Dallas, Fort Worth. So you're spread across the country a little bit.
Yeah, right up through the middle.
Yeah, exactly. And as far as projects, you really focus on everything from commercial, education, healthcare, manufacturing, even some federal projects as well. And a little bit of background on you. Since joining the company in 2005, so 25-year-old company, you joined in 2005.
It's a construction startup at that point.
Yeah, exactly. I'm excited to dig into that. The company was only 30 people when you joined. And you were a very strong advocate for the adoption of advanced technologies. You were instrumental in scaling the business from $50 million to nearly $1 billion in revenue. And we know this for sure, you're a sought-after speaker in the industry. Yeah. You've spoken at Procore's Groundbreak, ENR Future Tech. You've spoken at the AGC conference. And you've also been acknowledged for some of your work. So awards and recognitions. In 2017, you were awarded the Procore Groundbreaker of the Year award.
Yeah.
Which is pretty exciting.
Good story behind that. You can ask me some other time.
Yeah. And you've been a finalist for Kansas City Orbi CIO Awards 3 years in a row. So that's 2022, 2023, 2024. Impressive feat. And in 2023, you were named the top 10 construction tech influencers, really solidifying your reputation as a thought leader in industry. And I would say that you're also considered somewhat of a futurist in the way you've always been scanning the horizon, looking for early technologies. And we'll definitely dive into some of this in the interview. But Kris, I want to give you a chance to kind of kick off the interview today.
Yeah, I mean, Dustin, we were chatting about some of these things, getting ready for the podcast, and I can't wait to get to the future stuff. But let's take the way back machine a little bit back to early on. You've been a long-term Procore customer. You were at McCownGordon from 30 employees, right? What was the aha moment that you had that really said, hey, I need to bring cloud-based technology to a construction company? What drove you to make that decision?
Well, number one, it's the people, right? And I had realized that we were kind of struggling to get collaboration on projects. And construction is, we're GCs. We are the general collaborator in my
Yeah.
Where that's what it really takes to build a building. There's no a single person that builds a building. It's a group of teams that build the building.
Yep.
And if they can't collaborate well, then the communication breaks down and things go sideways. And, the other side is this is a high risk, low fee industry. And I didn't want to build a technology company inside of a construction company. Mm-hmm. I just wanted to let the business do what it does.
Yeah, that's great. And I mean, it's somewhat novel, right? Because if you think about it, it's like, hey, we know how to build. Let's lean on people who know how to build software to help us be better collaborators, to help us really get these projects moving forward. Well, should we transition a little bit to the career of construction?
Yeah. So one of the reasons we brought you in, I mean, the history that we've kind of hinted to here, I think is really going to come into play. But we felt like you would be a great business leader to sit down with, to talk about some of these future states that we bring forward in the Future State of Construction report. So for the Future State of Construction report, we uncovered in those interviews that 55% of construction leaders believe that it's extremely likely that automation will disrupt the industry in the next 5 years. And we believe that automation is not going to replace humans, but augment and support the humans that are doing that work. So how do you feel about that? Is that similar to your view of the future state?
I don't know that we have a choice.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we're 600,000 jobs short. We're 600,000 people short of jobs. And to me, automation is the way to get that done. And my career, technologist background of like, that's what I was forced to do. I couldn't just go out and hire more people nonstop. I created automations inside our business to make me more effective the same way we do with our project operation folks. And so it's not much of a decision anymore. And I think people are starting to see that there's having I was reading a report the other day and it said you can no longer have a business strategy supported by technology. You need to have a technology-led business strategy.
Interesting.
Because, it's kind of cliche anymore to say that everybody's a tech company. But the way the industry is headed, that's true.
Yeah. I think there's so much here to be said around like that strategy needs to be focused on how are you using technology as a competitive advantage? Like that is going to be the thing that separates people between, those who are accelerating and growing. We talked about this last night, and those who are just kind of maintaining pace. And if you're maintaining pace, then you should be worried, like, are you actually shrinking? Right? Because everybody else is getting larger than you. I'd love to know, like, you talk about, technology, automation, and supporting the business and supporting the workers, but are there any roles that you're like, hey, like, I don't know if we need this in the future anymore because, hey, this should be automated and we should have those people work on something else?
I think, the easy picks are the back office,
Yeah.
right? And not that I'm looking to say, oh, we don't need your role anymore, kind of what you said there. In our situation, we've been growing since I've been there. And so it's about scaling and doing that effectively and not adding headcount at the same rate you're adding revenue. And that's to us, that's the true meaning of scale is we're continuing to add revenue, profits maintain good, and we're not having to continually throw bodies at it. We're just leveraging AI and other kind of technologies to make people more efficient. I think there's some low hanging fruit there, like we're taking advantage of a lot of like AP automation on the backside.
Right, exactly.
Again, back to the high risk, low fee,
Yep.
How else do you make more profit? Cut cost.
Yep.
Right.
And is it true in the discovery call, I think you were saying you're 99% SaaS based?
Yeah, absolutely. So after May 1st, I will have one application on-prem. And the reason I did that was I never wanted our business to be reliant upon a brick and mortar location. I had this envisioned future where we could scale to whatever region we wanted to whatever markets we wanted to without having to put this massive IT load on it. And again, I don't want to build if I wanted to work at a tech company, I would go do that, right?
Yep.
I happen to really love construction and more so the people in it. And I think that with that structure and that strategy, it just helps support that scalable growth.
Well, and when you think about that, like, hey, everything but one is cloud-based, right? Does that give you some advantages to how those things work together and how you're able to, really build a complete solution? Because you've said, I'm going to pick best in breed cloud solutions that I don't have to worry about managing, but I do need to think about how do those things interact with each other.
Yeah. Well, we used to be, it was, well, you have to have an open API.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's just kind of a given anymore.
Right.
We're not even, you don't even get to the table without that. But I think the bigger thing there, leading back to the people and the competition between companies to get people to come work with them, right? Our tech stack makes your job a lot easier.
Yeah. And
so, and the experience is the same for everyone everywhere. There isn't all of this, we need a VPN or remote desktop.
Yes.
That to me creates a lot of friction in somebody's life. And we can attract and retain the best talent because our systems are smoother.
Yeah. I mean, I love this, right? We were talking about this at dinner last night as we were chatting a bit, is like this idea that the technology stack that you provide your employees can be a differentiator.
Oh,
And we have to think about how easy we make it for them to do their jobs, right? And the more modern, the more integrated, the more connected, right, that we make it for them, the easier it is and the more satisfaction they get to focus on the things that they actually came into this industry to do, which is to build, to solve problems, to add value, and not like, oh, I got to wait for this thing to connect and it takes 20 minutes for me to enter something because I've got a VPN in and all those challenges.
Or better yet, enter the same thing 3 times in 3 different places.
Yeah.
Like how would you feel about your effectiveness as a person? I mean, we all want to achieve and bring value to the business. And if you feel like, well, I'm just entering data 3 times, you don't feel good about that.
All right. Should we move on to another form of automation? Maybe talk a little bit about robotics?
Yeah, because this one I think is a little touchy depending on where you are in advancing in the organization. So I'm curious to get your take on this.
Yeah. And but I started thinking about this and I forget sometimes how long we've been using robots.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Aerial robots. I started our drone program in 2015. Yeah. So a decade in using, technically a robot, right?
Right.
I mean, and now when we talk about it, we think about, Optimus or some sort of bipedal tech robots for the most part. And yes, I want one of those.
Yeah. You don't got a whole bunch of Elon's Tesla humanoids running around on your job site yet?
Not yet. Good. If they're going to be $30,000, we're going to have a lot of yeah. But I think that kind of, we were talking initially about, when is the right time to deploy robotics?
Mm-hmm.
And not every project is right. Mm-hmm. And I think that's, again, kind of what we were talking about last night. It was the variance between projects, company, the scale of the project, the type of the project. Mm-hmm. Are we going to deploy a drone on a TI? Mm-hmm. Probably not. Mm-hmm. But we fly them inside,
Yeah, right.
And there are sometimes that scale of, depending on what scopes of work a contractor takes on, mm-hmm. does it make sense that you go and put the money into a layout robot if you don't do layout? Mm-hmm. And I think that is indicative of kind of the overall situation in construction is where it's just difficult. There's all this prototype stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it hard to deploy these things on an enterprise standpoint, because that's where I focus my energy is, okay, how do we have robots on every job?
Yeah.
Not just a job, but how do we make them work on every job?
Well, in some of those areas that you're talking about, right? Every use case you've described, whether it's drones, whether it's a drone or a quadruped robot walking around dog job site, mm-hmm. Layout robots. Those, in my opinion, they're tools, mm-hmm. right? They're assisting somebody to do a job that they would normally do, not necessarily taking that job over. Do you see a big difference between robots as tools versus robots that are going to go do tasks on their own?
Oh, that's a big difference.
Yeah.
And I think, it begins with safety. So at any point where you can send a robot into a confined space, that you don't have to necessarily, worry about the air quality and all that sort of stuff in there. Those are no brainers. You send a robot. Mm-hmm. And I think I like addressing them from that standpoint first off, because that's really kind of what we did with our drone program was I don't want my superintendent or whomever climbing a ladder to inspect, something 20 feet off the ground. Yeah. Let's send a $500 toy for the most part into the air and document it. But I think that next phase is really close, and we're seeing a lot of good improvements in those robots. But again, I think it's back to construction's, I think, bigger problem across the board, or everything seems to be a prototype. And, from a software development methodology, it's how do we break these down into chunks? Because that's what you do in developing software is this object-oriented approach. How can we see the same chunk across multiple projects and deploy something to solve that on each one?
Yeah, and you use this term prototype, pilot a couple times, right? And we had this conversation. Some of these technologies are very early, and we put them up on a pedestal at a conference, and somebody's like, "Oh, we're doing these amazing things." You've said this, like, a lot of it's just marketing fluff, right? And it's like, I want to look like the innovative company. But what is the thing that's stopping us from actually getting those things at scale? Is it the price? Is it people's understanding of what it can do for them? Is it we're still just really working out the use cases? Is there something that you think will unlock our ability to use these things at scale?
Well, unfortunately, I think the labor shortage will unlock that.
Mm.
I mean, you think about the biggest digital transformation we had was what?
Yeah.
COVID,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Because we were
100%.
forced.
Tipping point.
It was the best thing that happened to construction. I've said it before, and I'm not shy about it, that COVID was an amazing accelerant for construction.
Yeah. We had video-based, conferencing software for decades.
Yes.
And every time, they'd block the camera.
Yeah.
And so it was interesting to see how that unfolded. And I, like I said, I think unfortunately, that will be like the hammer that drops that says, okay, now you're going to have to do this. And if you don't, you're left behind. But I think up until that point, some of the costs are prohibitive, right? We have to be good stewards of our clients' money, and doing it for show. The client doesn't want to pay for that. It has to have real dollars and cents to it that provide efficiency, safety, quality, that sort of stuff. So I think those are some of the barriers there.
I want to come back to that later, but I also want to dive in on another thing that you brought up, which is the labor shortage, right? And so in the Future State of Construction report, we talk about the fact that 41% of the industry is retiring. And we talked about this a little bit already too, like 65% say that tech adoption highly influences culture, resilience, which you can make the natural leap to profitability and success of a company. So it's no doubt that labor concerns are at the top of mind for just about every leader in construction today. How has been like being an early tech adopter and this move to the cloud and providing tools that are easy to use for your employees really helped you maybe address some of those labor challenges, including the attraction and retention of your talent?
Yeah, well, I think it's really created an innovative foundation to the culture. We don't have a specific role that is titled innovation or anything like that yet. We may at a larger scale, but right now, like, my mind is blown all the time listening to our field staff talk about what they're doing on projects with technology. And it's not that, I've went around to every job and said, this situation's coming up, you need to deploy that. And I think that's one of the values of being a like we said, tech forward, right? Tech forward organization is you tend to attract people that naturally behave that way, that are constantly looking for a better way to do it, a better way to do it, a new way to do it, and kind of questioning the norm. And then, you layer in we're 100% employee owned. Everybody has
that sense of ownership.
So
everybody's looking for a better way, right? Like, this is how I'm going to help improve the company. Is that the thing that you think is driving the innovation, or are you doing other things to foster that innovation? Are you highlighting success and win stories? Are you, giving some extra freedom? Because we've talked about, this balance of freedom and control, especially when it comes to technology. Is there anything you're doing to help accelerate that culture of innovation?
Yeah, we always let the people that deploy the solution tell the story. Nobody wants to hear me talk about some great new thing we're doing, right? Somebody wants to hear that from the superintendent. And when the superintendent tells it in their frame of mind and how that's happening, that creates like wildfire across the group. It's, oh, she's doing that, I want to check that out now, and let's go deploy it on my job. And I think that's really what we're doing to be successful there, is just, like you said, creating those guardrails, i.e. cybersecurity and legal risk, right? Especially with AI today but you can use AI, but you can't put our corporate financials in it. And so it's exactly that. It's providing the freedom and the innovative culture to support it.
Well, let's talk about AI a little bit, because you brought it up. I mean, how are you deploying AI across the business? What are the guardrails that you're giving your employees? What are you seeing from, do you have superintendents that are like, oh man, AI is the best thing, or they're like, I don't know what Dustin's talking about when he says AI, right? Like what are the things that you're seeing success from maybe early on, and how has maybe your the things that you've done with having the company on the cloud, having this kind of larger technology strategy as part of your business helped drive what you're doing with AI today?
Well, ultimately, we can roll into it a lot easier, right? With our tech stack structure. But what I'm not doing, I'm not developing my own language models.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
I think that's too much of a lift for a construction company to be taken on. We talked about this last night. We're not a tech company. We're a construction company. And we leverage our partners like Procore, like Microsoft, like Workday to be our tech stack or tech staff, so to speak. And I think through the great partnerships and relationships we have with these firms, we're taking advantage of the innovations that they're continually rolling out, being early adopters, testers, helping them move the products along. But, we've found a ton of value in the super simple usage of AI. I was having dinner with the superintendent the other night, and he said, Dustin, I don't want to spend my time behind the computer. I want to spend my time on the job site.
Love it.
And he said, I'll send an email, go walk the job, come back. There's now 8 to 10 responses to that email. And I have to filter through this email to figure out who's responsible for what actions need to take place, and when do they need to be done.
Yeah.
And I said, man, Wes, I was like, I can just turn on Copilot for you and I can show you how to just summarize an email real quick.
Yeah.
And so I pinged him the other day and I said, how's it going? And he wrote me back. He's like, this is amazing. He said, that used to take me like 15, 20 minutes to dig through all of that, then send my response and all. He said, I did it in 60 seconds and was back out the door. And that's not like, you don't market that. Right? Like we don't do an E&R story.
Really? You're not going to be on the stage at Groundbreak talking about how you deployed email summarization? Oh, man.
But I think we maybe should, because when we look at what the report uncovered, we found that 45% of those that we surveyed said that burnout was the highest reason why they're leaving the industry. And I think we sometimes gloss over these low-hanging fruit, these simple wins that actually, like you said earlier, make the job easier. So I'm curious, like, is that part of your strategy then, looking at these low-hanging fruits? And is it a way that you're staving off that burnout that a lot of people feel today because they're still doing one foot in the old world, one foot in the new world?
Absolutely. I mean, you think about that. That took me, from my time investment, it probably took us a total of 20 minutes to deploy that solution for him.
Right.
Multiply that across hundreds of people.
Yes.
And do the math. There's real productivity savings there, and real efficiency gains, and so we're not glossing over just the easy things.
Totally.
And yeah, there's incremental innovation, and there's kind of the leapfrog type innovation, but it'd be ill of us to look past those.
Yeah, I mean, I know I've told this story before, but when I was at Styles, one of my biggest success stories was deploying DocuSign, right? It sounds silly. It's like not sexy at all. Like, sorry, DocuSign. Contracts aren't sexy. but
necessary.
But they're so necessary. And that was the thing, is literally everybody in the organization had to touch a contract, whether you were preparing it, whether you were routing it, whether you were signing it, whether you needed to know whether it was signed or not. And so you talk about these little small incremental improvements, but that 20 minutes across thousands of employees really starts to add up pretty quickly. And you can take some of those small wins and then, roll them into some bigger leaps that you want to make forward. So let's talk about those bigger leaps.
Yeah.
Anything that you're like, hey, this is going to be the big leap that we think we're going to bet on, or, that we think is coming sooner than later?
Oh boy, big question. Getting predictive. I think that's where everybody's headed. We have the capabilities today to predict when schedules are going to start to push, and we get compression and all that sort of stuff. And you go, okay, well, if you continue at this rate,
Yes.
you're going to not finish on time, or you're going to need to add this much to the workforce to be able to complete on time. And those are pretty simple things, I think, when back to doing things on scale, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even past predictive to prescriptive, I think that's where we really start to unlock as an industry, where we do trust machines to make decisions.
Yeah.
And or do a lot of the decision work, right? Like similar to what I was reading in the report about bringing cost history data together with other operational data to inform a superintendent's decision that day. And I know that's something that Procore deploys, and we're looking at too. It's that methodology of the next best action.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
and I think that, especially, you look at the decades of knowledge that are leaving, the hungry folks that are coming in to take on these roles. How do we equip them with that 30 years of knowledge in 5 years?
Mm-hmm.
That to me is going to unlock.
I mean, this is the biggest unlock, I think, for the industry possibly, right? And you're talking about data, right? And some people have said, not my term, but like data is the new concrete for construction. It is the foundation upon which everything we build moving forward will be built on top of. And this really does drive our decision-making in the future.
Absolutely.
And I think the report says 80% agree that connected historical data to help them drive future decision-making will be absolutely critical in the future. And I am a big believer, I think we are a big believer that this idea of like data-driven hybrid decision-making, where we're not 100% relying on our gut, but we're also not relinquishing the decision-making completely, right? We need to be informed. We need to take that data. We need to process it, get insights, use AI, and then make a human-based decision on top of those things, I think is really important. So what do you think, like, is that a scenario you're working towards today at the company? Is that like a future state that you have a vision for? I'd love to hear a little bit more about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's to your point. If data is the concrete, you should have been treating it like oil for the last several years, right? And refining it into the product that you need. Because if you have bad data, and so many construction companies do, because disjointed processes that are on paper and all that sort of stuff, and so yeah, like that, we are heavily focused on structured data right now, and putting it into an infrastructure that we can easily just kind of tap into it, you know, because I really like the way that tools like Copilot, they can just look at your data repository and you can have conversations with it. And I think that's really what people want. I have this envisioned future of our executives come in the morning and, they say, what are my top 3 most risky projects and what are a couple solutions for each of them?
It's my dream.
I was going to say, I think I've heard this.
I literally tried to build this 8 years ago, and I said red, yellow, green. I said, don't care about the yellows. Call the projects that are red, find out what's going wrong. But you also have to call the projects that are green and find out what's going right. But this is the thing we're all looking for, right? I come in, I now know where to focus my time, right? And that's so, so, so powerful.
Yeah. And the other side is, are we thinking too small?
Yeah.
Exactly.
With this kind of situation we're in today with Gen AI, what's the next leapfrog of it? We see how these new capabilities are unlocking so fast. And as soon as, OpenAI drops their new functionality, then everybody else, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Okay. And then now you just released, you're now at the bottom because the other 2 or 3 organizations released their new on top of yours.
Yeah.
And I think that, that kind of goes into that discussion we're having about interfacing. And how are we not thinking the right way of how we're going to use software in the future?
Yeah.
And what is that interface?
Yeah.
And I don't know that it's screens and keyboards and things like that. I think that all of that is set to change. And so thinking in what we have access to today is maybe not the right way to address it. I think that's where, Sasha, you and I were talking about what impact AI is going to have on construction. And I said, it might unlock that whole workforce situation, because when other jobs start getting automated, we're going to have an influx of new people.
Well, we're going to have an influx of people that think a bit differently.
Yeah,
And for those of you at home who were not at dinner with us last night, what we were talking about here is the fact that the software world is going to change, right? Today, and in construction specifically, we are so form-based, right? We took the forms that we used for 30 years for quality, for safety, for RFIs, for submittals, and everything was about filling out fields. And I just think with what we see in generative AI, I think what we're seeing with the acceleration of software development, that's all going to change. Like I've said it a few times, and I'm going to keep pounding this one on the table, but forms are dead, right? If we are thinking in the terms of forms in the future, then we've done it wrong, right? Because the way you get things done on a job site is with conversations. You walk into the trailer, you ask the project engineer where something is. You go out in the field, you ask a foreman what the status is. You do that through conversational language, and we should interact with software the same way. Now, we're not there yet, right? But I can see, like, this is what you were saying, is like the way we think about the way that we interact with software is going to change. And
for sure,
it's going to take some people challenging this a little bit to move forward.
And you see, I mean, even with AI now, it's people I'm talking to who are deploying it and tinkering with it are saying, I'm having conversations with the AI, especially those who are trying to create images with right now. They're like, I'm having a lot of conversations, close, but no, try this. But as you think about that conversational piece, Dustin, you've talked a lot about the culture of your company being very innovative. And I so many times say, if we want to really see what the future is, maybe those of us who are of an older generation shouldn't be relying on our imagination. We should be checking in with the younger generation just entering the workforce to ask them, what were you expecting this job to look like? And what did the interaction with technology look like? And how was that different from what it is? So I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about, are you doing that? Are you working with the multiple generations under the roof to really get a better vision of that future state?
Yeah, it's kind of a multi-pronged approach, right? You have a great internship program where we're sourcing interns from across the country, bringing those new ideas in. And I always love to hear how the next generation looks at things like I do, of why are we doing it like that? That doesn't make sense to me. But I don't like the way this is phrased, but it's like from an innovation standpoint, how do you innovate? Give a lazy person a hard job, right? They're not lazy.
Theoretically,
they're not lazy by any means. But but I have that same mindset too. I'm like, I don't want to do it the hard way. I want to do it the easy way. Why would I want to do it the hard way? And so it's creating those opportunities to have conversations with, like you said, the next generation coming in. And then there's also the side of talking outside the organization, outside the market,
outside the industry.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
And having good relationships with this tech startup ecosystem that exists. And because a lot of those folks are doing what they're doing because they're looking at the industry differently.
Right.
And so it's really not only just the next generation, but it's other industries too. And I think that's construction doesn't do a great job at that.
Yeah, I think we're at this really interesting intersection point when we talk about the labor shortage. We talk about technology and potentially some jobs being somewhat automated, us needing less of certain specific roles. And I think we're going to see this influx of like roles and positions and skills that just don't exist in our industry today, which is going to bring a whole different type of thought to our industry, right? I think it's like this intersection of construction technology and the construction industry has been an interesting thing to watch from the sidelines, because you have tech people who have worked at like big software and technology companies intersecting with construction who for the longest time has hated technology, right? And they just bring a different process of thinking to the way that they solve problems. And I think that collision, in addition with, hey, where we're going to get future talent from, because we're going to need data scientists, right? We're going to need people that are like mechanical engineers in the sense of they're like roboticists. Like they're going to bring different problem solving and different ways to think about the problems we have today. And what I hope we're ready for as an industry is to listen.
Yeah.
I hope we're ready to like actually go, yeah, why do we do it that way, right? And be a little self-aware.
Yeah. Well, everyone's focused on innovating, but are we focused on innovating at the org chart?
Yeah.
And I think that can unlock a lot of potential. Like we've started in partnership with Johnson County Community College, a construction technician program through an associate's-based degree.
Yeah.
And figuring out how to bring people in that way. And it's created a new role, a construction technician role in our company. And I think that we all should be looking at that way of, okay, we're doing knowledge work for the most part on these roles. And,
exactly.
Is the traditional path of PE, PM, EX,
Right.
all of that sort of stuff, that's been around for as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
And not that there's anything wrong with it. It's just that, are we thinking about, is there a way to change that?
Yeah.
And do you think that as you're looking at that kind of future state, and, you talked a little bit earlier about your tech stack, which frankly, I think from this conversation, I would view that as your competitive advantage, that tech stack. What is the role then of your chief information officer as you look at this new generation coming in, operationally changing those roles? What role does that, what kind of key role does that person or individual play in orchestrating all of this into that actual forward momentum, taking you closer to the future state?
Yeah. I think the CIO role or the CTO role in construction is very underutilized. I happen to know most of the folks in those roles across this industry.
Small group, right?
And so,
secret meeting.
Yeah, there is a secret meeting. I can't show you the handshake, but they're really underleveraged. And you think about that's really how I've been successful. Is I understand our business tip to tail.
Right.
Right. I have to know HR, accounting, marketing, construction ops, everything. And in my unique position, I've strung all of those together over the last 20 years, right? So I understand all the processes that interconnect them. And oftentimes I think the CIO role is like IT stuff. Yeah, IT stuff, right? But I think construction companies could really kind of go next level by bringing those folks into those executive conversations. And I think the reporting structure is wrong too.
Interesting.
So early in my career, I reported to the CFO. Love my CFO, love the relationship we have, love everything he taught me about finance. It's made me a better, well-rounded business person. But him and I kind of came to an agreement, and he said, I should report to the COO.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because we're a construction company and I should be focused on operations.
Yeah. Interesting.
And I think that transition has helped a lot because when the COO and I come up with an idea or want to implement something, there's no one else to ask permission from. Right. There's no one else to get buy-in from. You have the chief operating officer is bought in. It's a collaborative solution, and therefore it's a lot easier to roll those things out as opposed to, well, IT says we have to do this. And that's not the way we operate.
And I wonder, because when I did the opening, I said that you're nearly reached $1 billion in revenue. Did you see some type of inflection point when you made that operational shift to really align COO and your team? Do you think that's behind some of that strong growth?
Oh yeah. It's because we're lockstep. It's I work in operations. Right. And point blank. That's it.
Yeah.
And I think that if you have technologists in your company that are segmented out or siloed out into something else, they should be a part of operations or embedded in operations.
Yeah.
So we've talked about a lot. We've talked about robots. We've talked about AI. We've talked about data and decision making. When you sit back and you think about all these things and the transformation we're on in construction right now, like, do you think these things are like 5 years away? Do you think they're 20 years away? Where do you think this future, when we talk about the future of construction, actually lies on a timeline, if you will?
Well, I think one, I've been wrong before, so I'll say.
So we all have. Well, I thought I was wrong once, but I was mistaken, so that's fine.
Yeah, because early in my career, and I'm sure you saw this too, Kris, is the image of construction in 2025, and there's robots.
Oh, I have presentations on it. I literally have a presentation from 2018 that was 2020, a construction technology odyssey. Like literally, that was the title.
Yeah, and so, but the weird thing though is something feels different.
Yeah.
Something feels different. You think about the impact that tablets had
Yes.
on the industry. I mean, that unlocked so much for us.
Yep, the mobility.
Yeah, the mobility piece from, work-life balance and all that sort of stuff. And I think that we're on the cusp of that again. And so for me, I think it's major impacts within the next 5 years, just to general efficiency and back to the low-hanging fruit stuff. Chop the fruit down, eat it.
Yeah.
Yes. It's delicious.
Yeah.
So I think we'll see some very near-term improvements with AI, and at the same time, like, man, who knows what we're going to unlock?
Yeah.
And I think it's not so much of individual knowledge and individual company data. There's a lot to be said about the collective AI understands. Yeah. And I think it's what you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together, right? And I think that is what AI is going to do is unlock and democratize access to a bunch of knowledge. And I think it's just going to be natural to the next generation's workforce to say, whatever AI I want to use, how do I do this? What's the best approach for this? What am I not thinking about?
Right.
And I really hope that it makes us better questioners, if that's a word.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because in my area, we have like this big TV that we roll IT stats and stuff like that. And there's a meme with like a big bearded Viking person. And it's like,
really?
I don't know if it's but it's like, knowledge is not in the answer. It's in the question.
Yeah.
Well
and I think that if we can start thinking more about asking better questions, the outcomes will be strong.
Oh man, I need a whole other hour, but we're out of time. I want to unpack that so badly, but we
I was like, I also know someone who has a bow tie and glasses logo. There's a thematic connection here.
There's so much to unpack there.
Well, Dustin, thank you so much for joining us today. It was really great to sit down and just learn a little bit more. I think you have such an interesting story joining this GC right at the early stages and starting with platform SaaS as the beginning of that organization. And I think you really played a role and had a hand in driving the scale of your organization, your company, without losing sight of what really helps fuel your success, which are the people. All right, Kris, so here's the rapid fire questions.
We got rapid fire questions.
All right.
5 questions. So we'll just rattle them off. Real quick answers, nothing long form here. So what book are you reading or have you read that you most recommend?
My most recommended book is Extreme Ownership.
Yeah.
Just because I always look at what was my involvement in whatever happened and how do I take ownership in getting to resolution.
Awesome. What's your go-to source for a different or a more informed perspective?
People, right? I love talking to people, especially people that disagree with me. I love people that can get into spirited debate on topics and just helps me build a better informed decision.
If you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Grow a beard early.
Grow a beard early.
No.
It could be a lot longer.
You should have started the beard earlier. No. I think it's, stay focused, stay committed. And I don't want to jump into some of the next stuff, but small steps make a big difference.
What's one trend or innovation that you think is going to shape our industry?
You ever heard of AI?
No. Tell me more. If construction had a tagline, what would it be?
Can I have curse words in it?
Sure.
Why not?
I mean, people that get shit done.
Love it.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. GSD Club.
Yes.
There's a customer who created a t-shirt once upon a time, said the GSD Club. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for joining us.
And for those of you who are listening, you can download the Future State of Construction report. There'll be links below for you to download. And if anything that we shared here today resonated with you, please like, subscribe, share the podcast, and we'll keep bringing you the stories of leaders who are building the future of construction, harnessing the power of construction. Thank you so much.